When words fail and emotions run high, watch as these parents take extraordinary steps to ensure that their children's voices are heard in the pursuit of justice. This is Michael Madison, a serial killer who is being charged with multiple killings in Ohio. You took them off from the waist down, wrapped them in several layers of trash bags, and threw them away. Michael Madison is a guilty repeat offender. He was arrested in July 2013 and charged with killing 3 people in East Cleveland, Ohio. After the bodies of 3 women were found in trash bags near his apartment. He was born in Cleveland in 1977. Madison grew up in a troubled home. His mother was addicted to drugs, was very abusive, and let her boyfriends abuse Madison. In July 2013, police checking a bad smell found the body of a young woman who had been raped. African-American woman in a shed that Madison rented. Their names were given as 38-year-old Angela Deskins, 28, Shatisha Sheely, 18, and Sherelda Terry, whose body was found in a nearby basement, were Madison's other 2 victims. All 3 were black women. The body was so decomposed that the doctor couldn't say what caused the death. The search for Madison began, and he was quickly found and arrested after Madison was charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder after a short standoff with police at his mother's house. If you think the crimes were bad, wait until you see what happened in court. During the trial, things took a dramatic turn when Van Terry, the father of one of Madison's victims, was giving a victim impact statement and looked back to talk to the crazy man who killed his teenage daughter. Madison smirked at him and Van Terry. He lost it and rushed at Madison, which got applause. Court staff had to hold him back while Madison, who was bound but clearly grinning, was moved to a safe place. Madison was charged with aggravated murder, kidnapping, and sexual attack. He pleaded not guilty because he was insane, but the jury found him guilty and said he should be put to death. In 2016, he was given the death penalty for his crimes, no matter how shocking you thought Van Terry's explosion was. This wasn't the only time a parent struck a murderer in court. Jasmine Gordon and Clifford Thomas are also facing charges of involuntary manslaughter in Detroit, Michigan. 3-year-old Jamila was taken to the hospital by Jasmine Gordon and her boyfriend Clifford Thomas, who said she had hit her head and stopped breathing. Gordon and Thomas were both found guilty of involuntary manslaughter because it was determined that she died from being abused and not from being hit in the head. Thomas went to court on the same Friday as the victims so they wouldn't have to give their statements twice. What happened in court was even more shocking than the crimes. James Hilla's real father, Dwayne Smith, was about to give a victim impact statement when he struck Thomas from behind. Okay, sheriff's officers had to step in and separate the 2 men. The fight shut down the court for a short time, but Gordon and Thomas were later given their sentences. Gordon got 7 to 15 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter and 14 to 25 years for first-degree child abuse as an aider and abettor. Thomas, on the other hand, got 6 to 15 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter and 1 to 2 years for fighting and obstructing police officer. You might think Jamila's biological father's behavior is disgusting, but Willie Clay Field's behavior is much worse. In the case of Lindy Jones, who was being charged with murder in South Carolina, 19-year-old Jones killed 18-year-old Willie Anton Fields. Fields' family reported him missing for days, not knowing that their child had been killed. He was later found shot to death off a highway in Orangeburg County. Lindy was charged with murder, and Jalen was charged as an accessory after the fact. The murder was horrible, but the sentencing case in Orangeburg County was different. While Jones stood in front of the judge, the victim's family in the front row used the chance to speak to the court. "They took away my age, it's so hard." This is when Fields' father, Willie Clay Fields, made a statement. In a quick and intense move, he lunged at Jones and hit him hard in the back of the head. Look again to see Willie Clay quickly avoid the lone police officer standing behind the attacker and give the teenage killer a blow to the head. Things quickly got worse when Jones's father tackled him and threw him to the ground. Court officials rushed to the scene and separated the 2 men. As a result, police eventually led Jones away while others restrained the victim's father. After the incident in court, the victim's father was charged with assault and battery in the 3rd degree for Jones. He apologized for his actions and was given a 35-year prison sentence. As bad as Willie Clay Fields' behavior was, other grieving fathers have lost it in court too. For example, Lucas Kendall is facing charges for the murder of Kijuan Bird. Kendall had, Kijuan was brutally shot and killed, leaving his family desperate for justice. Kishwan Bird and Michael Smathers were unarmed and near their car when Kendall, an armed security guard, opened fire on them. Bird was shot 4 times in the back and died, while Smathers made it out alive but was paralyzed. Kendall, who had a history of crime, was charged with second-degree murder and attempted murder even though he said he wasn't guilty. In fact, mentally unstable, Kendall had to be ruled mentally unfit to stand trial twice before he was finally found to be able to be in court. In a tense and emotional courtroom, Kendall's lawyers still argued that his client should be sent to a hospital for medical care instead of prison. The question is where he has been housed to keep him from decompensating, which he did eventually. When Donald Bird saw Kijuan's father naked, not eating, and not drawn to anyone, he lost it. When the grieving father of Kiswan saw Kendall's lawyer, he wasn't crazy, he couldn't hold back his anger. No matter how okay Donald's outburst may have been, the rules of the judge doesn't let these kinds of things happen. Donald had to be led out of court by the bailiff, who had a heavy heart. Kendall ultimately defended himself. He said that he was only being charged because of his race. The jurors didn't buy his argument, so they gave him a life sentence. However, some parents have a more direct way of telling the killer of their child how they feel. This is Deshaun Brown's message. They are being charged with murder in Cincinnati. Brown was charged with 2 counts of murder, felonious assault, gross abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. The crimes he was accused of included killing his ex-girlfriend Natisha Lattimore and putting her 3-year-old son Nilo into the Ohio River. Sadly, Nilo's body has not been found yet, but during a procedural hearing, Antonio Hughes, the father of Applause Nilo, the 3-year-old boy who was reportedly killed by Deshaun Brown, did something about it himself. Okay, Hughes charged at Brown and hit him several times in the head and neck before cops stopped him. Even though court officers handcuffed Hughes and let him out, Hughes' anger wouldn't go away, and he tried to attack Brown again, requiring 4 police cops to hold him down. Hughes was then charged with contempt of court and given a 7-day jail sentence in the Hamilton County Justice Center. The case became even more tragic when detectives from the Cincinnati Police Department said that Natisha was thought to have been pregnant with Brown's child but had a miscarriage. Detectives think that Brown thought Natisha killed the baby and killed Natisha in response. Nilo and the fact that Brown bought a body bag on eBay point to a desire for revenge for the miscarriage. If Brown is found guilty, he could face the death sentence. If you thought these cases were shocking, watch this video to see the shocking case of Aaron Fryer. These stories are sad and shocking because they show how parents felt and what they did when their children were killed in horrible crimes. These stories tell us that people can go too far when they are sad, angry, or determined to get justice. In these cases, the parents had to face a painful truth. Their beloved children had died because of violent acts. Some people chose to go to court to face the people who hurt them and get answers and some kind of closure. Even though what they did was not normal, it showed how sad they were and how determined they were to get justice for their children. In the face of unimaginable disaster, we need to remember that our feelings can make us very vulnerable. These stories are moving memories of how complicated and strong the feelings are that come with losing someone very close. They want us to think about how much the families of victims must carry, and how far they may go to find truth and justice. It's important to remember that the courtroom is a place where justice is done legally, and violent actions are not the answer. People may see these parents' actions as a desperate plea for justice, but they don't get rid of the formal steps that need to be taken. When we think about these stories, we should work to make the world a better place where people follow the rules and don't get violent in court. It's important to help families of victims and show them compassion as they go through the difficult process of finding justice for their loved ones. Last but not least, we want you, our fans, to interact with us. Please subscribe, like, and share on our videos. If you want to see more exciting ones and be a part of a group that values kindness, understanding, and seeking justice. We should all stand together to support those who have lost so much and work for a world where justice is done and healing can begin. Thank you for being a part of this emotional trip with us. Let's work for justice and understanding together.